High in the Himalayas, tucked between two giants, you'll find a kingdom that feels like it's from another time. A place that has always, and very deliberately, marched to the beat of its own drum. This is the story of Bhutan, a land of soaring mountains, ancient traditions, and, as we'll see, some really deep contradictions.
Now think about that for a second. For decades, this wasn't just some philosophical question in Bhutan, it was actual national policy. It's an idea that completely captivated the world. But the reality on the ground? Well, that's a whole lot more complicated than the fairy tale. To really get Bhutan, you have to understand its spirit. It's a place that still holds on to its secrets. For instance, mountaineering is banned on any peak over 6,000 meters. Why? Out of pure respect for the deities they believe live there. And this reverence has created an absolutely incredible reality. That is the height of Jangkar Puensum. Now, to put that into perspective, that makes it the 40th highest mountain on the entire planet. And yet no human being has ever set foot on its summit. It's just a powerful symbol of a nation that chooses preservation over conquest.
You know, this spirit of self-preservation, it's literally written into the country's architecture. For centuries, Bhutan was just a collection of isolated valleys and fiefdoms. It took a powerful unifier, a network of incredible structures, and a really deep spiritual core to forge them into the single nation we see today.
And the key to it all was the dzong. Now, a dzong is so much more than just a fortress. It's the living, breathing heart of its district. It was the center for, well, pretty much everything. Government, religion, you name it. And the design of the dzong itself perfectly captures this philosophy. See, every single one is essentially two buildings in one. On one side, you have the monastic body, the spiritual core, and on the other, you've got the government administration, the secular authority. For centuries in Bhutan, faith and governance have literally shared the same roof.
So it's that unique worldview that gave birth to Bhutan's most famous idea. But this is where we find the central paradox of our story. This beautiful, world-leading philosophy running headfirst into the really harsh pressures of the 21st century. This was the revolutionary idea championed by Bhutan's fourth king back in the 1970s. The thinking was that things like sustainable development, protecting the environment, preserving culture, and good governance, those were the real pillars of a successful nation. And you know what? The world really took notice. But that ideal of national happiness is facing a serious reality check. Since the pandemic, more than 50,000 Bhutanese have left the country to work or study abroad. That's over 6% of the entire population. For a small nation, that's a staggering brain drain. Faced with these kinds of economic pressures, the government made a huge change. The commission that was specifically designed to measure all policy against the principles of happiness, it was absorbed into other bodies. It was a clear signal, a pivot toward more conventional economic goals. The era of gross national happiness being the #1 driver of policy, it seemed to be over. But while that pillar of gross national happiness was being reshaped, another one was standing stronger than ever. Bhutan's environmental record is, and this is no exaggeration, pretty much the envy of the entire world. It all starts right here. Bhutan's constitution, their actual constitution, mandates that at least 60% of the country has to remain under forest cover. Forever. Right now, they're crushing that goal at 71%. And this huge protected forest acts like a giant set of lungs for the planet. And the results are just astonishing. Bhutan emits about 2.2 million tons of CO2. But get this, its forests absorb more than 4 million tons. So it's not just carbon neutral, it's carbon negative. The only real threat to this perfect balance? Climate change itself, which is causing the nation's glaciers to melt at a really alarming rate. This fierce instinct to preserve its environment, though, it has a parallel in how Bhutan has preserved its culture. And like any nation, the process of creating a single, unified identity has had some very difficult, very complex chapters. So to really understand the country today, we have to look at one of the most painful periods in its modern history. So, in the late 1980s, the government brought in a one nation, one people policy. The goal was to promote the culture of the majority Drukpa population. This led to a new census with incredibly strict citizenship rules. Protests by the Lhotshampas, who are an ethnic Nepali-speaking minority in the south, were met with a really forceful government response. In practice, the policy enforced the national dress code and language.
In the crisis that followed, tens of thousands of Lhotshampas were expelled from the country. They ended up as stateless people in refugee camps in Nepal. It actually wasn't until 2008 that a large-scale resettlement program to Western countries began. And that process continues to shape Bhutan even today.
So all of this complex history is the backdrop for a kingdom that is now changing faster than ever before. After centuries of being pretty much isolated, Bhutan is sprinting into the 21st century, trying to somehow balance its unique identity with the demands of a globalized world.
And the pace of this change has been just breathtaking. I mean, think about it. In 1999, the country didn't even have television. Less than a decade later, it peacefully became a democracy. And today? Today, there are these massive, ambitious plans for a special economic zone, a so-called mindfulness city that's meant to be a global hub for tech and finance.
And that leaves us with a really profound question. Can a nation that measures its success and happiness successfully pivot to global economics without losing its soul? Can the kingdom that protects the world's highest unclimbed mountain really build a city that's modeled on Singapore? Bhutan's next chapter is going to be a powerful test of whether tradition and modernity can ever truly and peacefully coexist.